Hello, my name's Paul. I'm from Nutrient Nirvana, and this is my first ever video on YouTube. And today I'm with the lovely Dr. Marion Bevington. Marion is a speaking coach, a broadcaster, an author, a traveler, a healer, a yoga practitioner, and a deprogrammer. So, welcome, Marion, to the show.
Thank you, Paul. It's really cool that I'm your very first guest.
I know. I'm very privileged, very honoured, and I'm really looking forward to this chat. So,
Cool.
I'd like to start by asking you about your health journey, because it's been quite an interesting one from what I gather. So, could you fill us in and just talk to us about your health journey, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. So my health journey began when I started losing what I thought was good health, because I'd never really got ill. I'd never been ill as a child. I was very robust and healthy, and as an adult, robust and healthy. And then in my early 40s, no, it was late 30s actually, the year 2000, around the year 2000, I got diagnosed with an underactive thyroid. And the symptoms that I was getting was sleep for days and days and days, and very rarely eat, and never be able to lose weight. I mean, I wasn't overweight at the time, but I wasn't losing weight, and I wasn't really eating, and I had no energy. And my family actually thought I was drinking a lot because I was slurring my words. And there's a lot of alcoholism in the family, so nobody even mentioned it to me. They just thought she's pissed or she's stoned or something. And when I eventually got diagnosed, I'd been going backwards and forwards to the GP, and I'd never really been to the GP before. Been for contraception pill, or I think I'd had the odd bout of tonsillitis or something. But I kept going back, and I kept going back because I knew there was something wrong, and I didn't know what it was. And they said, "Oh yes, we've realised you've got this thyroid condition. Take these little tablets every day." Well, I was already taking contraception, so it's just another little tablet to take every day. So, like a good girl, did as I was told. And then 10 years later, the symptoms went really much better, but they were kind of okay. And apparently, according to the blood tests, everything was fine, you see. So I just carried on doing what I was doing. But then I got a double vision issue, and I got this really weird, puffy eye thing going on. And the double vision started to get a lot worse. I was living in India at the time. And when I came back to the UK and went to see a specialist about it, I'd done a little bit of research. I said to my GP, "I think it's called thyroid eye disease." "Oh, no, don't be stupid." She said, "Oh, no. Anyway, she sent me to Moorfields because it was obviously an eye thing. And the first thing they said was, "Oh, we think it's thyroid eye disease." I was like, "Oh, really?" My GP said, no. And that started me on a journey, because they said, "Oh, yes, we can sort this out for you. No problem. It takes 7 different types of surgery, and we'll pop your eyeballs out, and we'll shave the bones away, and we'll push it all back in, and 7 surgeries. And then we'll sort your cataracts out." I said, "I haven't got cataracts." They said, "No, but you will, because we will give you radio treatment to reduce the amount of scarring happening in the tissues right now. And you will get cataracts, and we will remove them." I went, "No, you won't, actually." And then I said, "So if you did all of those, would that instantly correct my double vision?" "Oh, we don't think, we can never guarantee that you'll get rid of the double vision. You know, we can pull things around and we can straighten things up so it will look different." I said, "I don't care how it looks. I care how I see, not what I look like." And so and then I asked why had this happened? No idea. They had no idea. And as I went further into my own research, what was happening was I was being overdosed on those little white pills of thyroxine. And my thyroid levels were high, too high for my body to cope with, but still inside the blood test boundary. So I was doing very well, they said, and I wasn't. I was poisoning my own body with pharmaceutical drugs. So that started me on my health journey.
Right, okay. So in terms of your thyroid now, where are you at the moment?
I still use a thyroid extract, but I buy it online, and it's actually taken from cows that are fed organically and are not pumped full of chemicals. And so I don't use the pharmaceutical grade things. I actually use thyroid tissue extract.
Yeah, that's what they used to give people, isn't it? That's what they used to give people decades ago, and now it's actually thyroxine, isn't it?
And that thyroxine is all it does is correct the blood levels. It doesn't actually improve the symptoms.
Well, that's the story when it comes to pharmaceuticals, isn't it?
Yeah,
it treats the symptoms, not the cause.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're much better now. And do you use iodine at all for?
I do. I paint with iodine. So you can't really see it. It's faded now because I put it on this morning. But I've usually, one of my arms is usually yellow for half of the day, and I rub it on my belly or I rub it on my legs or different places. I try to put it on a different place. I was using it constantly in the same place. It makes the skin go very dry after a couple of weeks. It takes weeks.
I've noticed that myself. Yeah. But you can mix it with vitamin C powder, and that masks the orange on your skin.
Oh, I don't mind. I quite like it, actually.
Fair enough.
I'm a bit weird. What can I say?
Yeah, you glow in the dark. Yeah.
Yes.
Why not? Excellent. Okay, so I understand that while you were living in Mexico, one of the places you've lived in, that you had another health problem. Was it IBS?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I did. So this
do you mind talking about that?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
This I'd actually had it way before I went to Mexico. I lived in Mexico from 2002 to 2005, I think. 2001 to 2005, something like that. But I had it a lot in the 90s.
Right.
When I worked in IT as a computer programmer. And it was a very stressful, horrible, worky situation. But I had a really particularly bad bout when I was in Mexico. And I just assumed it was parasites. And my friend was so beautiful. And she just said, no, it's parasites, darling. Just took me to the medical guy. And it resolved. But I didn't appreciate that it was coincidence that happened, is that I'd moved out of one stressful home and into a much nicer home at the same time as this parasitic shift had happened. And so what I assumed were parasite symptoms were actually IBS symptoms. But because they got released, because they got resolved, because I'd moved into a better place and I was living less stressfully, I just assumed, the medicine must have worked. And then I got it back again a few years later, living in India. These same symptoms came back. And I was in India. I assumed it was parasites. So I went, got the same medication, didn't work. And I did the same dose 3 times. It's wormwood and black walnut tincture and ground cloves. It's a really nice, again, it's an old wives' tale, which is the truth, isn't it? It's an old, kitchen sink recipe, if you like, that people used for parasites in the past. But it didn't work. When I was in India, it didn't work. And so when I then went back into the UK and got the tests done for that, well, I didn't even go to the test in the end, because this was all coincidentally around the same time as the eye condition was going on. So there was this appreciation beginning that the medical world didn't actually know what they were talking about. And all they wanted to do was either cut me up or pump me full of chemicals. And I didn't want either of those things to happen. So when I went with the IBS symptoms and they said, we can do a colonoscopy or whatever they call it, I went, no, you're not. Because you're just going to go up inside me. You're going to go, we can see this thing. We need to cut it out, or we need to give you toxic medication to sort it out. But I want to know why this thing is happening in my body. And they could never tell me that. And now I understand that actually IBS has got at its root indigestible family anger. Because I've begun to appreciate through a process which involves the 5 biological laws why the symptoms show up in the first place. Why do those biological tissues in the body behave in that symptomatic way? That's what I now understand. So the brilliant education I've gained about my own biology and about my own body are actually as a result of me getting ill. So in a way, it's weird, isn't it? Because I'm kind of grateful that I got so ill, because otherwise I would still be, smoking the old same rubbish, taking the old same pharmaceuticals, living the same old lifestyle, and not actually really looking at me and taking responsibility for being sovereign over me and my own body.
That's very interesting because you're saying that you believe your IBS was triggered or caused by some sort of anger, stress.
Undigestible family anger. So there are angry people in the family that I had to deal with. And my coping strategy was to hold their anger and bring forth my own rescuer, caretaker. But inside, their anger was burning a hole in me. And my own anger was burning a hole in me because I couldn't express it or I would be as bad as them. And I didn't, that was horrible what they were doing. So I didn't want to be as bad as them. So I couldn't digest it because I couldn't forgive them because they were being so awful. I couldn't tell them how awful they were being because I was so scared of them. So it's like this whole process was in me. It was their anger. It was my anger, and I couldn't digest it. And that is what burns a hole in your colon, effectively.
Wow. That's amazing, really, when you think about it.
The body's brilliant. Our mind is there thinking it's clever enough to sort the body's problems out. The body's bloody amazing. It makes bones, it makes blood, it makes babies. It can do all of those things. And there's our little mind going, oh, yeah, I think I know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. We are all self-repairing, aren't we?
Yeah.
If you give yourself...
the placebo effect is proof of that, isn't it? Give me a sugar pill, and if I think it's the right thing, my body will fix itself.
Because I do know, or I've understood for a while, that stress plays a major factor when it comes to health. But where I am at the moment with autoimmune disorders, is my understanding is that primarily they're caused by compromised gut flora. It's all centered around the gut.
That is part of the picture. It's a multi-level. The body is a multi-dimensional system.
Sorry, carry on. That was you and Julia. Anyway, carry on.
Oh, nice. The body is a multi-dimensional organism. So we have to look at I mean, yoga taught me about this. When I lived in India, I studied yoga, and yoga taught me about this because the yoga talks about the 5 bodies, the 5 koshas. So there's the physical body, there's the energy body, there's the mental body, which is about information. There's the intellect body, which is about the processing of that information. And then there's this thing called the bliss body. And the bliss body is a spiritual connection back to the creative source of all that is, that whatever it is that created this humanity, this body, this me. Yeah. So you have to see all 5 levels and all of the little pieces in between to really appreciate. So autoimmunity it's impacting all 5 levels, and it's impacted by all 5 levels. So we have to see all of those. So the autoimmunity to me is there's a disconnect from source. There's a disconnect from the creator. There's a disconnect from spirituality. Intellectually, the mind thinks it's in charge. Information coming in is from an external source that I'm assuming is the authority, which means all of my energy is totally out of whack. Because actually, I am my authority, and that source energy is my authority, not this intermediate beings around me. And then as a result of that, the physical form that's manifest is messed up. And that's where the autoimmunity is expressed through the physical form. But all the other forms have to be bothered in order for the physical, for that then to have symptoms. So if there was coherence and natural connection going on at all the other levels, there would not be any physical symptoms in the body.
Wow.
So we have to look at all levels. Yeah.
So could you just do me a favor? Could you name those 5? What were they? 5?
Do you want the names in Sanskrit or English?
Yeah, I'll take them in English for now, I think.
So the physical body.
Physical body
is Annamaya kosha, which is the meat. Anna is the animated meat. Then there's Pranamaya kosha, is the energy body, the prana. You think about pranic healing and pranic breathing and things. Pranayama is the yoga name for breath. And then there's the mental body, which is Manumaya. And the mental body, Manu, is the man, human. And it's about how we receive and perceive information.
Right.
Then we have the Vijnanamaya kosha, which is intelligence. So once we brought that information in, how do we actually use it? How do we process information? So that's our intelligent or intellect body. Yeah. And then the final one is called Anandamaya kosha, which is the bliss body, which is Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? Which is the
Yeah.
connection back to source, the source of all that is. And in our weird, twisted world, we call that, God, and it's very religious and all this other stuff. The word God is I don't like it. It's a program. It's a deep, deep, multidimensional, heavyweight program. So, a lot of people really think of God as this beautiful thing, but I've brought up as a good Catholic girl. It's a dirty word in my psyche. I don't like it, but I like the word source or the universe, or there's lots of other names. But yeah, that's known as the bliss body in the yogic traditions.
Wow, that's amazing. So I'll be looking into that, because that should hopefully take my understanding to another level, really.
You need to read my book, Companies Can Do Yoga Too, because my book, which is about corporate yoga, is based around the 5 bodies. And it talks about it's about doing business and understanding how a company needs to appreciate the 5 bodies. But it also, a business is made up of individuals. So it really is, it always comes back to the individual me, the individual I am. Yeah.
So whereabouts are you now? Would you say you've completely reversed your IBS?
No.
Yeah.
With the IBS, it's very rare I get symptoms with IBS now. Very rare. And it's very occasional, very low grade stuff that happens now. It's not like the explosive stuff because the other book that is still not complete is called Afraid to Fart and the Fine Art of Following Through. I love that. My journey to healing my IBS. So I've healed 90% of the symptoms.
Wow.
And I've healed that awful incapacity to fart because you didn't know what the fuck was going to end up in your pants. It was horrible. It was so awful. So I've healed all of that, but I still get very low grade. So occasionally there'll be a bit of constipation, or occasionally it's a little bit loose, and sometimes it's very rumbly. But through controlling my diet and controlling my stress levels by managing how I connect to me, how I feel being me, and how can I check in to be to me. So if my stomach rumbles, I know I've not gone, oh, Marion, how are you doing today? So actually it's a little, my body's going, what about me? You've forgotten about me. Oh, I have actually, because I'm so busy out there in the world trying to, do whatever it is I'm doing, that I'd forgotten about this body that I'm living in. I need to come back and check on my meat suit and make sure she's all right. Yeah.
Good. Great. So in terms of healing your gut, or sort of focusing on your gut with nutrition, with diet, with supplementation,
yes,
what would you recommend to people that are watching?
The most important thing is about recognizing that we are what we eat. The meat, the Annamaya kosher, is made up of things that go in this mouth. It's made up of things that go in this mouth. And so if I'm not aware of what is going in this mouth, or if I'm unconscious of what potential consequences come from what goes in this mouth, then that's where the imbalance is going to start. A huge process around gut flora stuff is connected to pharmaceuticals, and especially jabs.
Okay.
Jab, because that's not going in the mouth, obviously, but it's going in, it's getting inside me. So really appreciating what enters my system.
And it's
how
also
it enters my system.
It's also antibiotics as well, from what I've read. They play a massive part in
biotic is the flora in the gut, isn't it? The bio, which is non-human. Well, like more than half of our body weight, I think our genetic body weight is non-human. We only can exist because of microbes, because of fungi, because of bacteria, because of viruses. We can only exist because that soup was there before us. The whole biome is our forefathers, our ancestors. Ancestral line is bacteria. Single cells were the beginning of. I mean, I don't know if some people believe there's other things going on. I kind of do as well, but I also really get the idea that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for bacteria. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for fungi. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for those viral things.
Yeah.
So I need to respect that they are part of the meat suit I'm in.
Yeah.
They're
And of course,
not genetically me, but they are absolutely dynamically, biologically who I am.
yeah. And the world we live today, or we live in today, obviously, is very focused at the moment, especially on sanitizing everything and
Yeah.
ridding us all of bacteria, which is
Yeah. Oh, terrible.
incredibly dangerous, isn't it? It's incredibly
Terrible.
dangerous and
Yeah.
very detrimental to people's health. So,
You know, one of the things that is really interesting, I've never done it, but I've heard it's a very successful process when it's the right process, is fecal implant. So if you ever have to have massive doses of antibiotics, because sometimes they do what you need, sometimes they are what we need to have. But before you do it, you take some of your own feces and you freeze it. And when you finish the treatment, you actually put it not in your mouth.
What's for that?
You turn it into an enema, and you put it back in, and you sit with it. Oops, hang on. Let me just do that. You turn it into an enema, and you put it back in, because then you repopulate your gut flora from the back end in, because you've got gut flora all the way through front to back. So we need to repopulate front to back as well. So you use fecal implant as well as taking pre and probiotics to repopulate the gut from both ends. So yeah, I've never done that, but I've heard that you know, some people have had real success with that.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into that. It sounds interesting, very
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so in terms of your own diet at the moment, is there anything you're trying to avoid? Anything that you would recommend?
Yeah.
What's going on with your diet?
So with my diet, so I am gluten-free. I have been for over 6 months. I mean, I've tried gluten-free in the past. But I'm specifically working with a nutrition specialist. She's actually a nurse. She's a registered nurse. And but she's absolutely about recovering from what unconscious nursing can do to us, which is I've just found this amazing woman to do that with. So I'm gluten-free. I've become the gluten-free sourdough specialist. Everybody's eating my gluten-free sourdough breads because they're delicious. I am also I'm consciously taking lots of vitamins. I use this little sludge. I slowly drink a bit of this sludge. It's just a really wow organic, all plant-based, an amazing medicine. It's full of B's, vitamins, lots of different vitamins, lots of minerals. I distill my water. I don't drink tap water. I avoid tap water like the plague, to be honest, because you're drinking everybody's unprocessed pharmaceuticals, because 80% of what we take in pharmaceutically comes out in our piss straight into the water supply. So I have distilled water. I remineralize the water with trace elements and magnesium-based salty liquid as well. And I also spiral it with a little metal funnel thing. So it's like it's been in a stream, because the spiraling restructures the water. So the water gets back to its own organized structures. What else do I do? I use I'm also, I like oil, so I use krill oil, you know, like omega-3. I use a krill oil supplement at the moment. I'm doing a vitamin D supplement. I mean, some of them, I'm not sure which of them are just specifically for the gut. I'm talking, this is holistically for me, with autoimmunity. And recognizing that you're absolutely right. The autoimmunity would not be able to sustain if my gut flora were perfect again. So really looking after my gut, eating really well, and just, I mean, you know, I like a bit of sugar now and again. I actually got some nice organic chocolate the other day, but I realized my friend bought me a bar of chocolate. It was just like, no, it was nice, but it was normal sugary dairy chocolate, and I ate the whole thing. Luckily, it wasn't a very big bar. Whereas this lovely organic dark chocolate that I've got with raspberries and coconut in it, I have one square, and then I forget about it. And then, like, in the morning, I came down and I was like, oh, that chocolate's still there on the table. If it had been the other stuff, the sugary stuff, I would have eaten the whole bar before I'd gone to bed. So it's incredible how addictive food, which I think is, again, part of the problem. Sugars are definitely throw your system out of whack. But how addictive foods are, and how unconscious we become around addictive food. So
Well,
sugars are very
they're
addictive.
deliberately made addictive, aren't they? Processed
Yes,
foods, for example, have chemicals and sugars added to them. They get you
exactly.
addicted. I read
Exactly.
somewhere that they're more addictive than heroin.
Oh God, yes. Sugar. I
So
mean, how
yeah.
difficult is it to not have
Mm,
sugar?
mm,
And it's almost impossible because it's everywhere.
mm.
You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I eat my bread, sourdough, gluten-free bread, but
Mm,
actually, once those grains start getting broken down in my digestive system, it's releasing loads of sugar.
yeah. I mean, getting back to the bread, what I find interesting is there's so many people now that have a problem with gluten, but I mean, bread's been around for thousands of years. So why have we suddenly got a problem with gluten that we never had previously? It's
Well,
very
if you
odd.
think about it, 1,000 years ago, if you were making something out of grains, you would have understood how to soften the grains or how to preserve the grains in some way so they didn't go
Mm,
moldy. And then once they've been preserved, what do you need to do with them to then break them down to make to make whatever it is you're going to make? And how do you actually break them down? And
mm,
then what do you do with them once you've broken them down or, you've powdered them or whatever you've done to them? There's many, many steps and stages that we would take the grains through to have
mm,
what we would consider to be bread at the end of the day.
mhm,
Also with yeast, I mean, I use sourdough yeast and it
mm,
doesn't rise very well. It's not like, your mother's pride, fluffy,
mm,
light as a feather stuff. You don't. My bread's heavy, but I
mm,
like it. I don't mind it being a bit dense. But it really is about appreciating. Like I use a coffee grinder to grind up the grain. So I use barley sometimes. I like to put barley or millet and I'll
mm,
grind it. Well, how would I have done that 1,000 years ago? It would have taken me ages to
mhm,
grind up a few grains. So
mm,
bread would not have been in the plentiful supply that it is now. It
mm,
wouldn't be full of all of these chemically and technologically, the technology of grinders and blenders and windmills and all of those things.
mm,
We don't appreciate how much technology we use on a daily basis. So
mm,
even something that we think is quite natural and quite, home kitchen-y kind of
mm,
made, that would not have been possible. It would
mm.
not have been possible to our great grandmothers.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, wheat nowadays has been hybridized, hasn't it? It's been
So there's
hybridized.
GMO wheat, the soil. I mean, just the fact that they
Mm,
filled one field with wheat, that would
mm.
never have happened.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd have had your little garden, you'd have had wheat in the corner or around the edges. You'd have
mm,
had a load of broccoli and a load of peas and a load of,
yeah.
you'd have had all your things everywhere.
Nowadays we have this sort of monocrop mega field
Yeah.
farming culture, don't we? And
I
it's
remember in history or geography, I can't remember which subject it was at school, and they taught us about the Dust Bowl in America. And basically all they did was they got the flattest land and the prairies, the plains, or whatever they called them, and
mhm,
all they grew was wheat. And
mm,
they turned their own country into a desert very, very quickly.
mhm,
And
mhm.
they still grow wheat there because
Yeah.
they bring in loads of chemicals
Mm,
and loads of dodgy GMO wheat grains,
mhm.
and they call it wheat. And
I
it
know.
probably couldn't be much further from wheat, if
Mm, yeah.
awful, awful stuff.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So that's all very interesting. I've been.
Sounds like hard work. Sounds like hard work, but I tell you what, Paul, I have never felt better or happier. And
No.
like I've got my yeast rising at the moment. I'm going to make some bread tonight, and I'll probably
Mm,
leave it overnight and cook it in the morning. And I do feel like I haven't got enough hours in the day to do it all, but actually,
yeah,
I make the time. I make the time to do it.
that's right. It's important,
Yeah.
I make time for my allotment at the moment, or two of them.
Nice.
So
Yeah. Nice.
yeah, and that's really great because it's not until you've grown your own food that you realise what food really tastes like.
Yes.
It's it's so different to the supermarket, or just the way
Yes.
it tastes so much better.
Courgettes, fresh off the ground. Oh my! Oh, just
Tell you
like
what, though,
wow.
the only problem with courgettes is you grow them and they just don't stop, and you end up
Yeah.
giving loads of courgettes away to people. They're just a complete nightmare.
You need to make zuppa de zucchini, and you can put it in the freezer. It freezes.
I've grown some what they call tromboncinos, which are an Italian courgette, and they're huge things, and literally you can wear them around you. They're massive. They're a very funny shape. I'll show you one day. Yeah. Anyway, so there is something else I want to talk about with you today. Something that I've picked up on when I've been researching you.
Yeah.
And that is this thing to do with tulpa or the egregore. I hadn't heard of anyone else talking about this before, and I found it absolutely fascinating. And
I love it.
it made me sort of think about. Well, I'll let you explain it, because maybe most people.
It's hard. How do you explain it? All right. So so tulpa is a hive mind. It's a Buddhist term, and it's what's your tribe, or what's the group that you're interested in being with now? How do you have to think to be one of them? What are the thoughts that are in the circle of thoughts that belong to that group? And how do you behave to stay connected and attached to that group? Because that thought cloud is the tulpa. It's an artificial intelligence. It's non-human. And absolutely, we all wear the same hat when we're in that gang. And so being in the gang means you're in the tulpa, which means you have, and you will spot them a mile off anyone who's not doing it. Anyone who's doing the wrong rules, or breaking the rules, or doing something that's not supposed to be done, or it's not part of it. So yeah, we call it egregore, is another way of talking about it. But it's the hive mind. But which hive? This is the thing. Some of them are good and some of them are bad. Because we need a hive mind as a human society, as a communally living societal creatures, as we are as mammals. We do rely on each other. We need the hive mind to support the humanity. But the hive mind is then used as the control mechanism, and that's where it can get skewed and it can get twisted. So hopefully that was a really quick explanation of what it is.
Yeah, I mean, basically, when I was listening to you talk about it before, it kind of made me think about when I was a kid. When I was a kid at school, I had lots of different types of friends. So I never really sort of attached myself to one group. I would talk to lots of different types of people at school.
Yeah.
And when I think about it, what I noticed was that I would not become a different person when I was talking to different groups, but I was never really this, I would change the way I spoke. I would change the way I was around different people.
Yeah.
And this is all connected to what you're talking about, isn't it? That is the egregore.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the gang.
Yeah.
What gang am I in right now? So am I with my girlfriends? Am I with my boyfriend? Am I with my family? Am I at work? Am I in Girl Guides, or am I in the disco? Or where am I, and what is it? Which game am I playing right now? Yeah,
it's fascinating. And it always bothered me as a kid. I used to think, why can't I be like that with that person? I'm like it with that person. So it really kind of explained a lot to me just listening to you talk.
Brilliant. Yeah, I did the video on YouTube. I am possessed.
yeah. Slightly scary title, but it all made sense.
True, because we are possessed by the energy of the egregore when we're with that group. We have to be, otherwise they'd kick us out, or they'd kill us, because as an outsider, you're a threat to the group.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah,
very interesting. So I think we're probably at the end now.
Yes.
I've really enjoyed listening to you talk, as always. Thoroughly entertaining. Like to do it again sometime, possibly.
Perfect. I love talking, and I've got loads to talk about.
And it's always interesting. So thanks for that. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being my first ever guest. And we'll speak soon, hopefully, yeah?
Definitely.
Lovely. All right. Cheers, Marion. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
See you later. Cheers.